Assalamu alaikum. Thank you to our dear brother Tayyib, who's doing an incredible job at Care National, and we're very proud of him and all of the work that he does. And of course, my dear brother Corey, who I've known for a very long time and appreciate him and all the work that he's done. We have our sister Farah here, who's also from the Care National office. And of course, our dear brother Adam and Veronica, who have been doing incredible work in one of the most difficult states in the entire country. I just want you to know that you and my friends are in Oklahoma. We're not talking, Brooklyn, New York. I felt like the folks that are up here, particularly Corey, was being very optimistic and was saying, we're going to be resilient, we're going to fight, and we're going to do the things that we need to do. And I just want to go back to go forward. And I want to be honest with everybody in this room. I have nothing to lose. Just maybe Adam might just never invite me back to Oklahoma, but let's pray that doesn't happen. If someone asked me today, how do I feel about our community? I will say that I'm very disappointed. Because I know that we are much more than what we have done, especially in the last 15 months. Sisters and brothers, we as Muslim Americans sat here in the United States of America in all of our privilege and watched the slaughter of the Palestinian people with our taxpayer dollars. And we did not stop a genocide. We did not stop a genocide. 15 months later is not stopping a genocide. And all the Palestinian people wanted from you is to get your government to stop sending the bombs that shatter their lives and of those that they love. That's what they wanted. They didn't ask you for bread. They don't want your lentils and your pasta. They want you to stop your government, the one that you pay taxes to, from sending the bombs that literally have left Gaza as a pile of rubble. Sisters and brothers, it's not okay. And we're going to all answer for this. And if we all asked ourselves as individuals here today, did I do everything that I could? Did I truly use every skill, every resource that I had to help alleviate what was happening to the Palestinian people in Gaza? I promise you that the answer for each and every single one of us in this room is no. Did you ever wonder, in this country, a lot of people always talking to me about AIPAC, Corey. Every day people are trying to explain to me how AIPAC is, buying politicians, AIPAC is doing this, AIPAC is doing that. And you know what I tell people who lecture me about AIPAC? I said AIPAC is doing what AIPAC's supposed to be doing. The question is, what are you doing? Do people really believe here that those who are committed to the annihilation of the Palestinian people are more committed than those of us who are committed to the liberation of the Palestinian people? Is that what you want me to believe? Do you want me to believe that people who are united around these ideas of divisiveness and hate and suppression of immigrants and people of color and black people in America, somehow they're more committed to their cause than those of us who are committed to ensuring that every single human being that lives in this country is treated with dignity and respect? Is that what you want me to believe? Brother Tayyib said this, and it's true. Our Muslim American communities are some of the most generous in the country. We give billions of dollars in charity every year. You've probably been at fundraisers here in Oklahoma for Syria, for Yemen, for Palestine, and people will drop $20, $30, $50, $80,000. I've been at fundraisers, mashallah, where one donor will say, I got you on $100,000. And that's honorable. And that's incredible. And that's generous. But what our people really want from us is to change the foreign policy in this country so we don't have a 2006 in Gaza, then it's 2008, then 2012, and then we went through the massacres of 2014, and then 2021 when the Great Return March happened, and then you watch the genocide again in 2024. Sisters and brothers, there's something wrong. This is what I sit with, so I'm just telling you my heart. Like, I brought this notebook up. I realized this is a notebook, by the way, that I'm carrying that says Donald Trump in it on all the pages, and it literally says, the dates on these are like 11/11/2016. I don't even have the right notebook today. I'm telling you this from the heart. Why is it that our Muslim American communities require bloodshed? Why do you need bloodshed? Why do you need to see dead babies in Gaza for us to rise up and to mobilize and to organize and to protest? The Palestinian people have been under occupation for 76 years. The people of Gaza have been under siege for over 20 years. But apparently, with the Muslims, you have to see the babies on the streets or the mothers wailing and crying or the hospitals bombarded or the doctors being detained or torture in order for you to say, nope, that's enough for me. That's where we draw the line at people being blown up. What does that say about us? What do you think other people think of us that between 2014 to 2021 we go quiet? And then it requires the Great Return March. And then they say ceasefire again, and then everyone's like, ceasefire, great. So there's a ceasefire now apparently in Gaza. What did they do? They just moved to the West Bank. They're bombing the West Bank right now, which is where my family is from. Every state in this country should have a very strong care chapter. Because I promise you, in this state, there are plenty of organizations and individuals and powerful people who are on the opposing side. And they're putting money on the table. They're walking your state legislator. They're making sure they hear from them. They are suppressing our students on the college campuses, yes, including here in Oklahoma. We have to have a conversation as a community. What are we willing to do for the things that we believe in? There's a lot of also fear in our community. And I don't know, maybe it's just me. Alhamdulillah, I have the privilege and honor of traveling the country, and I've been to many masajid, and Brother Tayyib today did a beautiful khutbah twice at the masjid that I got to hear, and I get to hear so many imams trying to inspire our community, and they talk about justice, and they start telling you, only fear that we have is the fear of Allah. And the people say, Allahu Akbar, and we're praying, and it's almost like mechanical for me. If the only thing that we fear is Allah, then what are you worried about? You worried about your job? Well, that means you don't believe that rizq is from Allah. For me, sisters and brothers, after all these years and all that I've been through, and many of you know the stories, it is truly a miracle that I'm still alive. And Allahu A'lam if I'll survive this 4 years of Donald Trump. But the reason why I'm here is because Allah decided for me to be here. I'm here today in Oklahoma. I'm getting up bright and early tomorrow morning. And guess where I'm going? San Francisco, because I'm going to talk to the California Student Association. Do you know how many times the opposition has tried to cancel me? Do you understand? You wouldn't even know. Tried to cancel my book contract that I got. Try to cancel me in appearances at college campus all across the country. Why? Because they want to mess with my livelihood. That's what it is. They want to try to punish me for speaking truth to power. But it's not them that's in control of my livelihood, nor are they in control of my life either. Allah's in control of your livelihood. And even for some of the parents in the room, and I got the privilege to speak to one today, I understand that you're concerned for your children. I do. Because that's what parents do. I have kids too. I don't speak about things that I'm also not participating in or experiencing myself. I have a 25-year-old son, I have a 24-year-old daughter, and I have a 20-year-old daughter. Alhamdulillah. Wonderful, incredible young people. And so when I talk to you and I say I'm going to talk to the parents, I'm not lecturing to parents about something I don't know. I'm lecturing to parents about something that I do know that I live. What I taught my children is this: you stand up for what you believe in, and you don't back down. And I'm going to have your back. And what we hear from a lot of parents across the country, and my phone apparently is a hotline for parents, just so you all know. I've had parents from California, from Texas, from Georgia, from Yale University, you name it, I got the phone call. Sister Linda, please call my son. Please tell him to be careful. Tell him not to do this. Tell my daughter don't do that. The parents call me, I say, give me your child's number. I call their children, you know what I tell their children? I'm so proud of you. You're amazing. If anything comes up, if you need someone to advocate on your behalf, if you feel that your rights are being violated, if you have any interactions with law enforcement, call me and I will make sure that you have an attorney. And you know how I get them attorneys? I call CARE chapters. If you're in Pennsylvania, I call the CARE Pennsylvania chapter. If you're in New Jersey, I call CARE New Jersey. Salah will tell you, New Jersey, we had a lot of drama. called Salah ad-Din from New Jersey. You're in New York, I'm going to call Ifaf from the CARE New York chapter. You're in Florida, I'm calling Abdul Jabbar. If you're in Texas, I know who to call. And I'm calling the CARE folks, and guess what? Those kids are going to get attorneys. And not only are they going to get attorneys individually, and then CARE is going to continue that work, because CARE has multiple complaints into the Department of Education. They have been able to designate schools as hostile environments for Arab, Palestinian, and Muslim students. Guess what we're doing now, sisters and brothers? We're no longer on the defense, we're on the offense. I'm tired. Why are we always having to defend who we are as Muslims? What kind of message does that send to our young people? When we see physicians saying things that are anti-Muslim, anti-Palestinian, anti-Arab, we're complaining about them too. No longer will they just target our professionals and target our teachers and target our students. We know how this process works too. And that is what we're going to do, because we are not afraid. There is a constitution in these United States of America. And you as Muslims have to believe that that constitution also applies to you. And when you don't believe that, that is how they see you as weak, so they go after you. And if one nurse doesn't say something that she's being targeted and she says, I don't want to make drama at my hospital, guess what you do? You open the opportunity for them to harass another nurse and another nurse and another nurse. If you're a public school teacher and you're being targeted just for being who you are or for expressing something about yourself around a principle that you believe in, and everybody else is allowed to do that, but you're not, and then they say, well, you can't have that cup that says Free Palestine, or you're not allowed to wear a little watermelon pin at your school, and you let it slide, then that means you're just telling them that you have every right to violate my freedom of expression. So the responsibility is not just about you, it's about people after you. So when you tell your college student son who comes home and says, Mom, this is what my professor said today, this is what my professor said about Palestinians, or here's the derogatory things that I heard today from my professor about Muslims, and you start whispering to your child, listen, I know your mother, this is not okay, I know it doesn't sound good, and it's mean, and the professor shouldn't be saying that, but we don't want to make drama. We don't want to do trouble in the school. Then guess what you do? You're giving a free pass to that professor to do it again and again and again and again. We have a responsibility to stand up for our people. Every other community has Mexican American Legal Defense Fund, SALDEF, the Sikh American Legal Defense Fund, NAACP Legal Defense Fund. Every community has mechanisms to stand up and defend their own community. That doesn't mean that they're not under attack. It doesn't mean that they're not also being targeted, but they have more resources by far than we can imagine on our community to defend ourselves. Why? It's almost like sometimes I feel like, do we love ourselves enough? Do we love our children enough? Do we believe that our children should live in a society where they are respected, where they are able to be fully who they are? You already know when people meet me, you could say, what time is it? And I'm going to tell you I'm Palestinian, and then I'll tell you what the time is. This is how our kids should be operating. Our kids should be wearing, if our daughters want to wear hijab, they should walk into a college campus with their head held high. They should not feel any less than anybody else. And if somebody does make them feel less, they should have a mechanism to be able to protect themselves and to defend themselves in those spaces. Sisters and brothers, we are in a very serious situation, if you haven't noticed. I aged 30 years in the last 10 days. Every day, I thought I heard the worst of it. And yes, there are many executive orders, and Corey's right, we're not going to respond to all of them. Because not all of them are actually executable and implementable. A lot of it is just a lot of hate mongering and a lot of fear mongering. I'll give you an example. Donald Trump signed an executive order saying he's going to end birthright citizenship. And that means if you are in this country and you have a child, the law says, the Constitution in the 14th Amendment says that that child, regardless of the immigration status of the parents, is an American citizen. Donald Trump says, I'm signing some piece of paper, and that's it, it's gone. It's not up to him. He would have to do a constitutional amendment for that to actually be real. So I ignored it, because I'm not going to play into the misinformation and the chaos and the confusion of this administration, because that is what they love to do. They are masters of manipulation, and they are masters of chaos. They want you to not even know where to focus. Donald Trump has a lot of pens in the White House. So that means he got endless pieces of paper to sign. And some of it will be implementable and executable over the next 4 years. And we got to be prepared. And I'll give you one example. One example that has two parts. You probably heard that there's an executive order where Donald Trump is going to deport students who are here on student visas who he believes are supporters of terrorism. So people who basically, we interpret that as anyone who has shown any support for the Palestinian cause is how they determine. So we have students who come to this country so that they can get their degrees, and they happen to be at a rally or a protest because they're also watching genocide too. They watch genocide too. You think because I'm a foreign student that I don't have a heart, that I don't want to participate with my fellow students to stand up and say genocide is wrong? So that's one part. And then there's the second part, which is the revitalization of what we called last time the Muslim ban. And so they did an executive order, and they said that they are going to have their experts come back with determinations within 60 days of the announcement to tell us which countries are on the list. So last time, you remember, Iran, Syria, Yemen, you name it, Sudan, Somalia was on the list, Chad was on it. They took Chad off, they added Venezuela. You know, it was a lot of shifting going around. But as you know, Muslim majority countries. And they might add a couple of others that are not Muslim majority countries, just to throw us off. But we know the intent of these types of travel bans. But here's where it got worse. It's not just a Muslim or travel ban or whatever you want to call it, depending on the list of countries once we see it. It also is retroactive, because it's not just about banning the people who are entering the country. It's about looking at people who've already entered the country and are people who are anti-United States of America or people that have anti-government intentions. Like, I don't even know how you're going to figure that out. I don't know how they're going to trace that. But that's what they're saying they're going to do. So about March 20th, maybe 21st, we're going to hear the announcement of who is not going to be able to enter the country under this executive order. And here's what I'll say. A lot of people say, Sister Linda, what could we have done the first time? Well, first of all, the first Muslim ban, CARE was the first organization to sue the Donald Trump administration. And in fact, the lawsuit was called Sarsour versus Trump, because the plaintiffs were mostly of immigrant communities, and people didn't want to put their name publicly. So everything was Jane Doe, John Doe, Jane Doe, John Doe. But we wanted to have a name because we're not afraid of Donald Trump. I said, put my name on that. Sarsour versus Trump. I'm not afraid. So as you know, we went through lawsuits. And here's what I know. People say that the Supreme Court is supposed to be objective. And they're supposed to, look at all the arguments, and they're supposed to make fair assessments. We have a conservative Supreme Court. And so if anybody believes that this particular Supreme Court is being fair, then I have something to tell you. And so what happened was, with the lawsuit, it went all the way to the Supreme Court. And here's my assessment, and people don't have to agree with me, because a lot of times the Muslims don't agree with me, and that's okay with me. We lost in the Supreme Court. So we sued Donald Trump, and other people and other organizations sued Donald Trump, and we lost. And what does that mean when we lost? It means that we set a precedent in this country. That any president of the United States, doesn't matter which president, so this is not a Donald Trump problem. This is any president in the future, including Donald Trump, can arbitrarily decide to place countries on the ban list based on national security concerns. And you already know national security is really just code word for keeping Muslims and Arab and brown folks out of the country. So here's my assessment of that. And it's something that Brother Tayyib was alluding to here. Be honest. When you all heard about the Muslim ban, and you heard that Sudan was on the list, Somalia was on the list, Yemen was on the list, Iran was on the list, be honest. Did you see Muslim Americans across this country in the masses mobilizing outside? Muslims are oftentimes waiting to make sure they're not on the list. So if, Egypt wasn't on the list, so it ain't about me. Pakistan was not on the list. Bangladesh was not on the list. India wasn't on the list, right? Other Muslim majority countries, Morocco, we could name a few more. We're not on the list. So of course, if it ain't about me, then why do I got to worry about it? I don't know about you, sisters and brothers, but I really must have been missing a lot here, because when I grew up and I went to Islamic school on the weekends, they were teaching us as little children. They actually used to have like a image that we had, like a poster in the masjid classroom, where they would say if one body part is hurting, that means your whole body is hurting. If one part of our ummah is hurting, we are all hurting. But in this country, we've learned a lot of selfishness. If it ain't me, then I don't got to worry about it. Me, I'm an American citizen. I don't got to worry about these undocumented people that they want to raid and deport back to their countries. That got nothing to do with me. Sisters and brothers, I will say this, and oftentimes people who are my opposition will say, if you don't like it here, go back to where you came from. That's what they say to me. Well, first of all, I came from New York City, from Brooklyn. That's the first clarification that I like to make. But if they mean that I came from Palestine, I'd gladly go back to a free Palestine. But my point is, when people say to us, if you don't like it here, go back to your country. I love this country. And if I didn't love this country, I would sit at home, I would let it all crumble. Alhamdulillah, me at an individual level, I'm good. But I love this country enough to fight for it to reach its ideals. Because my parents, my Palestinian immigrant parents, decided to come to this country so that I don't have to be born under a military occupation. And so my parents sacrificed for me so that I could be here in this country. And so I'm going to make my parents' journey worth it to this country. And I'm going to fight in this country because I actually believe in this country's potential. And so there's also the other side. This country teaches us things that are not inherent to our cultures and where we came from. It's not inherent to indigenous culture, to black culture, to immigrant culture. We come from cultures that are about community, right? It's about it takes a village to raise a child. And you know this if you went to the villages of Pakistan, Bangladesh, India, Senegal. We are community. That's how we are raised. We feed our neighbors. If there are elderly in our community, we visit the sick in our community. That is what we are taught to do. This country teaches you something that Muslims have absorbed, and it really bothers me. This country taught you individualism. It taught you as long as you got a house and you got a car and your children are safe and you got health care, why are you worrying about people that don't have health care? If you got a house and you're living and you're able to pay your mortgage, why are you worried about the homeless people that are on the streets? You got a good paying job, why are you worrying about workers who are fighting for a $15 an hour wage in this country, which is not even anywhere near what is livable in this country, even in a place like Oklahoma. But this country tells you every man and woman for themselves. Don't worry about it. You mind your business. Don't worry about your neighbors. Sisters and brothers, let's go back to our roots. Our roots are in taking care of our neighbors. Our roots in making sure that your neighbors don't go hungry. Your roots are when the refugees come to the masjid, that you immediately get into action and you welcome the refugees, just like our beloved Prophet Muhammad, may peace be and blessings be upon him. Not only was he a refugee himself, he welcomed the strangers into our societies. So I'm calling on you today and bringing you to a higher place. Our young people are counting on you. How much more do you want our young people to sacrifice? Did you ever ask yourself why young people on college campuses one day decided during a genocide? Because they could have done it before. But that day in April, remember that day where you all watched the young people of Columbia University just kind of came out of nowhere? And they just got up and said, you know what, my parents sent me to an Ivy League school. Columbia is one of the best in the country. Some of those parents were paying $200,000 to send their kids to Columbia. Some kids literally hustled their entire educational career so they can get scholarships to go to Columbia. And in that moment, they got up and said, I'm willing to sacrifice it all. You know why our young people? You think I didn't talk to the young people and ask them why? Because they were disappointed in us. they were disappointed in our generation. They said, you weren't fighting hard enough. You weren't really sacrificing anything. The Palestinian people are sacrificing everything for us. They have taught people all over the world about the true meaning of Islam, of faith, of resilience, of community, of love. You watch those people pick up orphan children and love them as their own. They shared the very little food that they had. They sacrificed their children. They picked their children, dead babies, to the camera to show you what the apartheid regime and occupation continues to do to them. They sacrificed everything. And the young people said, we're willing to sacrifice. This is nothing. What am I going to lose? A scholarship? What am I going to lose? They're going to kick me out of Columbia University? I'm willing to sacrifice. Because that's how strong the faith of our young people are. And our young people, they experienced consequences. And some of them stand by those consequences. And they are still proud. And if you ask them, they say, we have no regrets. I don't have to get a degree from Columbia University. I'll go to Brooklyn College. I'll go to a CUNY school. They will get their education. Because what is meant for them, sisters and brothers, is going to happen. I'll give you one last example. There was a student at a university. And I'm not going to name the university because I don't want to identify the student. We got a call that this student had a $40,000 scholarship. And their mother was devastated. The father was an imam at a masjid. The mother taught Quran school at the Islamic school that was connected to the masjid. This is not a family of means. And the mother was devastated. She said, Sister Linda, what are we going to do? They took my son's scholarship. I said, how much was your son's scholarship? $40,000. I said, okay. Picked up the phone. I called 3 donors in our community. 3 Syrian doctors. I said, here's the story. This is what happened. They said, get us the Bursar account number, and we take it from there. And within 30 hours, that student had his scholarship money right back into his account. Because what is meant for you is meant for you, sisters and brothers. Nobody's going to take what is yours. Just like the opposition has not been able to take me off a platform because Allah chose for me to be on this platform. And Allah chose for me to still be alive today. Because when I was at Women's March and I was getting threatened, the white women at the Women's March looked over to me, Sherry knows. They said, you're a very interesting person. We get all this hate mail about you. These people harass you. They send us emails telling us they saw you walk out of the office at 5:17 p.m., which means people are surveilling the office. Why are you not afraid? What makes you get up every day and come here? What makes you get up and do this work? I said, oh, you think I'm scared to be assassinated? Is that what you think? I said, let me just explain something to you about Islam, about my faith. My faith teaches me that the day that I am to no longer be on this earth is decided already. That date is already decided. It could be today, it could be next year, it could be tomorrow. It's coming. So that means I know that nobody has control over that day. And if I were to lose my life in the causes that I believe in, I would be honored to die a martyr in the cause of justice and to defend my deen in these United States of America. And so, we're not asking everybody to sacrifice. I'm not asking you all to start getting a microphone and start speaking truth to power. I'm not asking you to, sacrifice your children in this moment. I'm not asking you to do anything that makes your life uncomfortable. What I'm asking you today is, are you willing to at least support the people that are willing to do that? That's all I'm asking you to do. There are people in your state, like the Adam Sultanis, like the Veronicas, who are willing to do this work. Let me tell you something personal, and this is not my business to be sharing people's business, but I'm going to share your business, Veronica. I'm sorry, sis. Gotta excuse me. These are my people, and this is a family conversation. This lady right here, who is number one, not Muslim, which I think is already honorable in of itself, that she is here protecting and defending our community. You are not going to believe this one when I tell you. This lady is getting married next weekend, which is, of course, amazing. I don't know about people who've gotten married here. There are things to do before you get married. There's a lot of last-minute things. You got to go pick stuff up. You got to make sure the lady that's doing the flowers is right, and you got to go to the hall and make sure it's being set up the way you want it. There's a lot of things to do. This lady is spending her Friday night hours before we got here, setting up a event for Muslims so they could defend their rights. I just want to say, I'm sorry, I am like in awe of people sometimes. I've seen people get married and say, I'm taking 2 weeks off before the wedding because I got a lot of things to do, and Veronica wants to be here to the last drop. In fact, this lady's talking about, I'm still working till Wednesday. I'm just demonstrating what somebody is willing to sacrifice for their work. And they are not even, I consider Veronica a sister. Me personally, she's my community. But what I mean to say here is that she's not Muslim. And she could be doing a lot of other things. She's a lawyer. She could be working at a firm, probably making some big bucks somewhere. She's an incredible attorney. But she decided that she wants to be a lawyer with a purpose. And her purpose is to defend our rights here as Muslim Americans. She knows that if Muslim Americans are protected, if our communities are protected, she knows all other marginalized people will be defended and protected. And so today, sisters and brothers, I know Tayyib is talking about, I don't like the auctioneering thing. I don't agree with that, but I'm going to let you slide because it's not my business. But tonight, sisters and brothers, please, please be generous tonight. Give to CARE. Let us set them up this year so that they could be successful. We need at least another 2 people on this team, ASAP. There are your governor, let me give you an example of what your governor just did like 2 days ago. Do you know that you only have 1 black university in this whole state? Just 1. 1 HBCU. Not 10, not 5, 1. Your governor apparently left them off the budget. You have 1 black university. It's the what did you say, Adam? It's the most far west. Like basically after Oklahoma, there are no more HBCUs. So you have 1 HBCU, 1 black university in the entire state of Oklahoma, and your governor was like, everybody gets funding except the black university. It's outrageous. Outrageous. Like when I read that, I'm not even from Oklahoma. Wallahi, my blood boiled. So you mean you're letting some racist, I'm not going to say bad words, a racist man, I'm going to leave it there because I don't want to get, I'm already going to have to talk to God about a lot of things, and I'm not trying to add cuss words to the situation. You let a racist man decide in this state that with all of you and your families and all your friends and colleagues who are paying taxpayer dollars, a man just made a decision that your taxpayer dollars not be used so black university students could get a good education at an HBCU. That's what just happened. So this is not just about us. This is about what you're willing to allow. And so I'll end with this. And I believe this because this is the one thing we all have in common. Whether you're a doctor, a lawyer, whether you're work in the sanitation department, it don't matter what your stature is. And that's what I love about our beloved deen. It doesn't matter what your stature is. It doesn't matter how much money you have in the bank. The one thing that we all have in common is we're all going to die. And we're all going to meet the Lord. And the Lord's going to ask you, I blessed you. I gave you so many blessings. I blessed and I blessed and I blessed. What did you do with the blessings that I gave you? A lot of time people are grateful for the blessings that they have. But in fact, the more blessings you have, the more Allah tests you. Allah wasn't, by the way, I don't know, just want to make this last clarification because this is another thing. People say, haram, the people of Gaza, so sad. All the bad things that happened to the people of Gaza. You think God was testing them? All the people in Gaza, all the children, all the mothers and the grandpas and the grandmas that got slaughtered in Gaza, they're all going to heaven. It's a one-way ticket to heaven. They're not going to be in the whole situation that you and me are going to be in. They're one, even the moms used to say, Alhamdulillah, even with their babies lying on the ground. You know why? Because they knew they're going to be reunited with their children. Imagine the solace in knowing that I'm going to be reunited with my child. It's going to be a little time, it may be tomorrow, but I'm guaranteed. What happened in Gaza is a test for us, for Muslims all over the world. And Allah's going to say, I made this test happen. Do you believe you passed the test? Did you share your blessings that I gave you? I blessed and I blessed. I gave you healthy children. I gave you a place to live. I promoted you at your job. I gave you all these health and all the things I gave you, everything I gave you. What did you do with those blessings? And I truly believe, sisters and brothers, that any resources that go in the defense of our deen, in defense of our marginalized and vulnerable neighbors, the poor, the sick, the elderly, the immigrant, I promise you, sisters and brothers, that you could take that with you on that day and say, I shared your blessings, Allah. Everything that you gave me, I tried to do good and alleviate the harm and suffering. So inshallah, tonight, you are generous and you support the wonderful work of CARE Oklahoma.